You're listening to Design Between the Lines, the only design and home furnishings podcast where we talk with the movers and shakers, industry innovators, and lifetime legends of the home furnishings industry. It's here that I get a chance to sit and chat with the influencers shaping the industry into what it is today, and to learn a little bit more about life in their world. Catina Suarez Roscoe is a furniture designer and founder of Catina Unlimited Design in Greensboro, North Carolina. Her 3-decade career spans many successful collaborations with several leading industry manufacturers, such as American Drew, Hardin, Borkholder, and Hooker Furniture. Born in Havana, Cuba, Catina's heritage has impacted her life and work, creating interpretive designs that allow the consumer to individualize their own expression. Her studio is a repeat finalist and winner of the annual Pinnacle Awards. It's my honor to have Catina here with me today. Catina, welcome.
Thank you, John. It's a pleasure to be here, and I really value the opportunity.
Thank you. We were talking a little earlier before the show started that you grew up in Cuba, but came to the United States at a very young age. How old were you when you...
I was 4.5 or so. Yes, 1960, so 4.5. So I was born in Cuba. And shortly after, of course, with the Castro takeover, my family was one of the fortunate ones. My father worked for an American-owned company, Sinclair, and one of the first things that Castro did was draft, it's sort of to strike against the Americans, draft employees of American-owned companies, and he said, not me. So he came to the United States. Shortly after arriving in the United States, Sinclair, his American employer, recognized him as an employee of the company. So we sort of had an inroad.
Wow, that was good.
2 months later, the rest of us came. The rest of the family came.
Now, so you came back with your mom, and do you have siblings?
Yes, I have siblings, an older sister and a younger brother. So the three of us and my mom came with a couple suitcases and a box of cigars for my dad. Wow. And we were here for vacation, for a 2-week vacation, and stayed.
And you, when you arrived in the United States, where did you first live?
We moved, of course, we arrived in Miami, but then moved to the Atlanta area. So I grew up actually in Smyrna, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta. Atlanta because of the connection with my father's company, and settling there.
Now you lived there, and then I imagine you then eventually from high school matriculated to a university for studies?
I did. That transition happened in 1974. I graduated from high school in Smyrna, and then my father kind of shifted his career. He went from Sinclair, which became BP, in the petroleum industry. He was a design engineer, and came to North Carolina, to the textile industry. So he transitioned to the textile industry and brought the entire family here. So that's how I ended up in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Seems to me you're a little bit like your father. You guys have a lot of drive. That's great.
Yeah, I have a great story. Way back when, in Smyrna, Georgia, in 1964, my father designed, or was part of a design team. I don't think he takes full credit for that, but and illustrated a service station, a very futuristic Sinclair service station that won the award in the 1964 New York World's Fair. So I remember him having a huge drawing table in our living room and laying on the floor as he's, comes home from work and he's doing his illustrations for the renderings for this design. And I would draw, just laying on the floor.
Good.
Yes, down below.
Okay. So you got it. You got that honestly.
I got it honestly.
That's
yes.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, tell me, so where did you go to school in college? Where was that?
I went here in Greensboro, the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, their art department. I wish it were today because now they have something incredible going on at UNCG that they called the Department of Interior Architecture. Back then, it was just the art department. So I have a fine art degree in design, and my concentration was sculpture. So I sort of went from the two-dimensional aspect of drawing to the 3 dimensions, and I think that kind of opened the way to furniture for me.
So I was thinking about that with a three-dimensional aspect of design and so forth. So how did you get from obviously graduating from that program into your first position?
My first position was with a freelance designer in High Point, Norman Heckler. And I was hired there to do the illustration work. At that time, graduating from from college, I had no idea that a career in furniture design even existed. I mean, furniture just appeared in a retail store, right? So who knew that there was someone who designed it? So I started working there doing illustrations. And I think what Norman appreciated was that I did a lot of watercolor and pen and ink drawings, just loose drawings. And that appealed to him and hired me right out of art school. And I guess it just started from there.
So a little bird tells me that there was somebody in that office that you seem to have a very strong connection with?
It was very interesting because I interviewed for the job, and then my first day, I got the position, and walking in the door the first day, I was introduced to a Cuban gentleman by the name of Jose Alvarez. Who would have known that in High Point, North Carolina, two Cubans would be taking over this design studio, speaking Spanish and annoying the rest of the design staff?
Well, I bet that was a great day, and I bet he was elated to find someone that you guys could connect with. And I imagine you learned something from him in terms of the business.
Oh, absolutely.
Running an operation in an office like that. And did I hear that you had connections with Tom Keller as well?
Yes. After a couple of years working at Norman's office, Tom Keller kind of hired me away, if I can say that. Again, in the capacity of doing illustration work primarily. Tom, who was an avid reader and loved to learn about anything, had a tremendous library. I remember going in on Saturday mornings and just kind of, pouring through some of the furniture books because, that was not my background. But I wanted to learn just everything about it. And from the roots, the history, everything to modern day design.
Now, during your these first few years in the business, were you able to travel as far as getting out and seeing how this design work operates?
Absolutely. And Tom was wonderful for that. He exposed me to so much from, working firsthand, and of course, most of our manufacturers were domestic manufacturers back then, to making presentations, and just giving me, the rope to either sink or swim. So I really have carried that with me, that role of his as my mentor for forever, and absolutely the opportunity to travel.
This business is amazing in terms of mentors and mentoring, and
Yes.
I'm grateful that you mentioned the mentors in your life. Any other ones that you may have missed?
Well, I have had many. There have been marketing people, for instance, some of my clients that in the product development capacity and marketing that have just shared a lot of their wisdom that they've learned through the years. There's something that even working in my own office with some of the fellows that have worked with me in my studio that I love to share. We, as designers, know what we know. We've studied, we see, we have a vision. We look at the world through eyes that other regular people, accountants, don't. But then there's another aspect to the design world that we live in. There's a commercial side. We also have to sell it. So we also need to listen and take input from salespeople, marketing people, manufacturing people. We know what we know, but they know what they know. And that collaborative effort is what makes the world go round.
This is a perfect opportunity to kind of step into where Catina Unlimited Design came to fruition. What was that, around 1995?
1995, yes, yes.
So what made you think, hey, I can do this and I can have my own company?
I can do this. I can do it. Considering that my background was from the art perspective and design, I always felt that I needed a little crutch and a little help on the engineering side. So I started my own venture in 1995, but I did hire my very first engineer. Prior to that, I'd had a partner for a short period of time, and he sort of handled the engineering part, the detailing, and I was the idea person, the design person. So that's how it had worked, and I kind of it just developed an office staff from there. So there were at one time several fellas that worked with me, and with me, not for me. I like to state it that way, and we just grew and learned from each other.
So you, having had some wonderful mentors, became a mentor. It's I would assume because these were probably young people that came into your staff.
Yes, young people, young talent, and maybe you're right because that's the way that my true education in the furniture industry evolved. I enjoyed learning fresh ideas from young people and sharing my experience in the industry with them. So we grew up together. We learned from each other. So nurturing young talent.
Wow.
And it's pretty cool, actually, to see how that's evolved.
Well, you've got a philosophy of design we chatted about earlier off away from the microphones. Tell me a little bit about what it's like in Catina's mind as far as ideating and interpreting ideas that you have. How do you start that process for you?
I think that designing furniture is not rocket science. I think that we as designers have to just observe and look at the world around us. And in my office, we always try to look at the end consumer, the end user first. Identify those personalities. Whether that individual is an outdoors person or a lavender and lace romantic type, or an urban young professional urban lifestyle. So identifying those lifestyles and then designing to that, creating designs that individual will be able to relate to. And will also be able to create their own expression in their home, in their environment, expressing their true personality through that furniture.
So there's an emotional level that you're touching with what you do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that our designs, to truly be successful, and I've had some good long runs on some designs, I have to say, I have to add. It truly is that. One time, many years ago, one of those mentors that we spoke to earlier told me that the role of a true designer is to actually know what someone wants before they know it themselves. So observing, watching, and understanding, having an understanding, and then designing to that, I think is the real key. But designing to that emotional level. I mean, we all need function. We all need a place to keep our socks. But how an individual can relate to that piece of furniture, how that relates to their lifestyle, to their sense of self, to their expression, I think that's the key.
So it's both obviously functioning as whatever they need it to be, but
absolutely,
but as well they've got to be happy with it every day that it's sitting in their home. Well, that's a really good point. Some people tend to forget that. So you're developing over this business over 3 decades, and you've talked to a lot and of merchandise managers and marketing people, and you're kind of there. What do you see, when people say the word cutting edge, what does that mean? I think it means different things to different people. In your neck of the woods, from your point of view, what does cutting edge mean to you?
It means, my gut response to that would mean that it means nothing. In our commercial, what we do is commercial product, residential product that we want to sell to a lot of people. The interpretive nature of my product, of my designs, is that my design becomes a blank canvas, basically. Then that individual can accessorize and can create the type of environment that really expresses that personality. Well, cutting edge, I don't know, doesn't really, I think cutting edge, if you design cutting edge, maybe you can design it once. I don't look at my design work as artwork. I do artwork, but that's a separate category from what I design.
Now I know a lot of designers have told me over the years that they almost keep a library of things, certainly of past work, of work that they've developed, maybe that they didn't really push to introductions phase, but they had it in mind, or they had an idea, or you see something in nature, or you've been on traveling somewhere, and you keep it in your mind for later use. Do these kind of things in your creative process, does that pop out, or do you keep them somewhere in the back of your mind? Hey, this would work here. When you're in the middle of discussion with a customer or client?
Oh my gosh, my office is a mess. I have everything from clippings to doodles to Post-it notes, everything, and it's continuous. And as I've shared, and some of the fellows that have worked in my office can vouch for, a designer we don't sleep. We don't sleep. You can't turn the brain off sometimes, You're constantly, everything that you see, you're focusing on patterns and on composition and on color and on texture and incorporating that into the work that we do every day.
Well, it's obvious that you're passionate and engaged in the process at all times. When you travel, and you travel short distances, long distances, I'm sure you've had the opportunity once or twice, I guess, to be overseas at a factory, maybe working on fine-tuning a product. Do you have any stories in that regard?
Well, I do. I guess any of us that have traveled to Asia have many stories, but my very first trip to China was interesting and kind of relates back to my heritage a little bit. But and this was at a time before AutoCAD, before electronic, drawings and pushing a button and they have the drawings overseas. So we travel to the factory and we have full-scale blueprints on the floor and we're drawing and trying to make revisions. And then two of the product managers, Chinese product managers, come into the room and they're discussing, these changes back and forth and what the factory is actually capable of doing. And I'm looking at them, my head bobbing from side to side, watching their conversation, banting back and forth in Chinese. And all of a sudden I felt like compelled to say something. And the words that came out of my mouth were in Spanish. You should have seen these men's eyes. It was pretty wild. So
there's just that communication. You had to say something.
It was a different language, and, I have one of those too. So
the great thing is, I think with furniture, it seems that if you're engaged in a discussion about it, you almost know whether it's another language or not, what they're talking about.
I felt in my heart that I knew exactly what they were saying.
Well, and you did.
And I did. I think I communicated the changes correctly.
Well, so most recently, your traveling has been more or less domestic as far as working with clients.
Correct. I have a couple of domestic manufacturers here in the U.S. That I do design work, Hardin Furniture and Borkholder Furniture.
Borkholder, yes. I think I saw your lovely personage in the paper recently about an introduction that they just rolled out.
Right.
And local paper as well in Greensboro. I'm not going to give them a plug, but they know who they are. Yep. Nicely done. In that regard, we're going to talk a little bit about your latest projects. If you could give me a little bit of an idea where you're going with the Borkholder, because that's a beautiful, beautiful idea and a totally kind of a new direction for you.
Right. Well, Borkholder is very interesting. It is an Amish manufacturer, an Amish company. They have a parent company, Country Wood Products. So Country Wood Products is a state-of-the-art manufacturing facility for kitchen cabinets. Ola Yoder, the owner of the company, purchased Borkholder furniture. That was quite a viable furniture manufacturer many years ago, and it had kind of dwindled. The reason that Mr. Yoder purchased Borkholder was to put his community to work. Okay. So he purchased, and his love of furniture, of course, but to put his community back to work. And then looking at designs and trying to move the company forward and a little bit out of that stereotype of the Amish product, then I came around. So I am trying to develop product for them from a sense of fashion. More current, the Amish manufacturers, the Amish craftsmen can build anything, and it's beautiful. So just with a little tweaking in the right direction and a connection to that end consumer, as we discussed before, I think they'll take off. I think they'll have good opportunities ahead.
So I see that you are becoming in some respects, the spokesperson for this new collection in the company, and rightly so. You're an articulate, engaged, passionate spokesperson. How do you feel about that? That's a real change for you.
It is because traditionally in our industry, of course, as you well know, the designer has sort of been in the background. You know, it really has been about our manufacturers, which is great, and promoting that brand. Now I think our younger generations, it's a little different. It's about telling a story. And Borkholder, for instance, has a wonderful story with the Amish heritage. And now throw a passionate Cuban into the mix, and wow, no telling where we go.
Well, so you're taking what we talked about on an emotional level, interpretive design, essentially through retail organizations. I understand you're giving presentations to retailers, so that they can relate this story to literally to the consumer. When he or she are in the store, they've got a story to tell. It seems like you're catching fire with that idea. That seems to be something that is happening in this industry right now that should have happened a while ago, but it took a little while, and here we are. It's starting to happen now. So we just talked about Borkholder and what you're doing for them, and kind of a change of pace for you. We'll put it as another hat you're wearing, in addition to designer, an interpreter, and an engaged person in this industry. Now you're a spokesperson as well. Speaking of speaking, let's talk a little bit about your thoughts about the future direction of this industry. I mean, you're seeing, we just mentioned it earlier, people telling stories again, which they used to. I remember in this business back in the 70s and 80s that the people were telling stories about their collections, and it was about the story. Is this something you're seeing coming back strongly now?
I think so. I think I don't know whether to call it coming back or just reinventing. I think some of our the influence of younger generations, of your daughter, of my daughter, has definitely brought a hipper element to our furniture industry. I know for me, just the perspective as a whole, just a fresh perspective. And the idea of reinventing. Our industry has suffered through a weird economy. Many of us have hung on by our fingernails, and the idea of sitting back and waiting for things to come back, that ain't never gonna happen. So we need to evolve, and we need to reinvent ourselves. So as younger, fresher, vibrant lifestyles come into play, then we too need to focus our designs, not just from the perspective of old, of creating suits of furniture any longer, but creating designs that will cater to, again, the lifestyles, the way, and lifestyles is almost a misnomer, the way that young people choose to live their life, the style of living, the pace of their life, the energy of their life. All of that comes into play into our designs, and I think needs to be considered in the future of our industry.
Well, you're mentioning our daughters, and and they're of a generation that the way they communicate is totally unlike what we all grew up with. They're communicating a great deal between each other, amongst each other, before they ever go to a furniture store or a place to buy something for their home. Is this kind of pushing the retail trade and those selling the product to address their needs more specifically than they ever have before because they're so well educated about what they're doing before they come in? Is that what you're saying?
Well, absolutely. Technology has driven our industry. We used to build huge, deep armoires to house monstrosities of televisions. Remember?
Yes.
Remember wall systems and surround sound systems are huge.
Oh, yeah.
And then we went to the onset of the flat screen TV, and all of that changed. So our designs have evolved through the years according to that technology. And now your daughter, my daughter, they live, researching and absorbing information constantly, and creating, not to mention reality TV, but
yes.
that influences my daughter at least a lot. But they create their own lifestyle. So again, back to that emotional aspect, back to the identity. They're selective about how they want to live their life.
So therein lies some direction for what you're talking about, relating to that emotional connection, products that touch the lives. You have to understand what those lives are about a little bit. You have to be out there, you have to be living, you have to be absorbing what's going on in the real world, not in some little cubbyhole with a CAD system, and you're hoping that the lines will all come together to make something look great. Right. You have to put something in there beyond that.
Right.
Is that kind of a little bit of towards the advice you might give young people thinking about this industry?
Absolutely. I think the approach to design can't be as it was once when I started in the industry, for instance. It's no longer about making something pretty. Here, I designed this, it's pretty. Ain't it pretty? Don't you want to buy some? No, that's not where it's at now. It has to tell a story. It has to have significance. It has to have meaning to this individual's life. So yes, we need to sharpen sharpen our tools.
Gosh, are you saying that this $15,000 planter, the purple planter, won't make this room? I can't believe that. My goodness, Catina.
It might.
But I do remember that phrase coming up a lot. This just makes this room, when now it's all about whose room is it making? Whose home is it making?
Yes.
Good on you. I'm glad you're bringing that interpretation to what you're doing. And I guess you're telling others, if you're going to come into this business, please bring that with you as well.
Absolutely. And I think for young people, they have a fresh perspective. They have a fresh perspective that our industry is starving for. We need that input. Earlier you asked me about ideas and where I look to ideas. Now, just there are so many websites, even retailer sites, and it's no longer just exclusively about furniture. Just looking at furniture, looking at the product and what your competition is doing. Now we need to look at lifestyles, how people are living their lives. Even ABC Carpet, for example, their website is about lifestyle, events going on in the city, speakers that are coming into their store, recipes, food recipes. So it encompasses a complete whole home and whole person identity rather than just exclusively furniture.
So you've talked to some students recently, and I know that you're going to be part of the new mentoring group for the American Society of Furniture Designers. Congratulations on being part of that group.
Thank you.
I think that starts at the end of this month. This is January now in 2017. And by the way, Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. You too.
This will be a good thing for the industry, I think, to have mentors available when questions are needed to be answered. I'm sure when you began, there was the design side, there was your interpretive skills, your ideating, what you knew you could do in creating, and then there was this whole other thing called the business of running a design shop. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that was an eye-opener.
That was definitely an eye-opener. I think and for students, probably the greatest challenge in terms, and I can only speak to being a freelance designer and running a studio, running an office. The greatest challenge, as in most businesses, is the dynamics of the personalities, are the people, are the employees. Keeping everyone happy, keeping everyone healthy, working together, collaborating together. That's just key. That's key.
The moment that you made the decision to get in this business and create your own studio, after 3 decades, are you pretty happy you did that?
I am thrilled that I did that. I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. I love what I do. But besides that, I don't know what else I would do. I've done this forever. I mean, I've only worked in freelance offices prior to establishing my own entity, and I love it. I love it. I think it's there have been good times, hard times. Something else that I would tell students is perseverance. The difference between success and failure is just simple perseverance. Hang in there. Keep doing it. Do what you love and keep doing it.
Wow. On that note, I don't think I could add anything to it. Well said. Well said. Let me thank you for being here, being a part of this podcast today.
Thank you, John. This is a tremendous opportunity. I think that we need this so much in our industry. We need this from the design perspective, showing what true value we bring, designers, the design process brings to our industry.
I want to thank my guest, Catina Suarez Roscoe, for joining me today and discussing her philosophy on the importance of designers in this industry and the designs that have a story to tell. This episode of Design Between the Lines is sponsored by Conrad Companies, LLC, providing marketing services to the global furniture industry. Conrad Companies, LLC is your problem solver for all things merchandising and product development. Learn more at conradcompaniesllc.com. Design Between the Lines is produced by Element Studio with the American Society of Furniture Designers. We're recorded in High Point, North Carolina. To learn more about ASFD, visit asfd.com. And don't forget to subscribe to hear more industry stories of Design Between the Lines.